Okay, so welcome everyone. My name's Jane Dolby. I'm the Mentoring Projects Coordinator, and Una is also here. She's the assistant. We are a very small but very diligent Mead's Award team. So if you have any questions and you send them to the Mead Awards email, you'll find myself or Una answering them. So we're going to just run through the guide, which we've sent to you by email. And we are going to record this session so that you can either catch up or people that aren't here can see what was said. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Una.
So what we will cover today is background and reminders, writing your stage 2 application, submitting your application, producing a strong application, and FAQs. Congratulations on being shortlisted to stage 2. This means that you are eligible for the Mead Fellowship. The panel thought your project idea showed a compelling and clear rationale, and they think that you may have the necessary skills to achieve it. Now they want more detail about the project. So the next section will cover kind of background and reminders. So a little bit more about Scott Mead. He's a photographer, investor, and philanthropist. He's one of UAL's Court of Governors. He sits on many boards in the UK and USA, including the Tate Foundation and the Photographers Gallery. He believes in helping creative students to achieve their potential, and he sits on the Mead Fellowship Awards judges panel with 3 other senior UAL staff. So that is, if you make it to the next round, those are the people who are going to be making the kind of the final decision on who the award is given to. So what are the Mead Fellowships? It is funding for arts practice or research projects. A 2025 fellowship project must be completed between September 2025 and July 2026. Projects must help extend your creative practice and add to your professional development. The project must add to your industry, discipline, or sector. And the deadline for the next stage is Tuesday, the 6th of March at 9 AM. So these dates won't move, and it's important to make a note of them. I think you're in a mute, Jane.
Sorry, I'll start that again. What I said was there are 8 finalists, and they are that will go through to present to the judges, and so you stand a good chance of going through if you write a really strong proposal. And that does involve not just the text, but also the budget and the timeline. So you can spend money on art materials, you can spend money on professional training, on software, on licenses, permissions, books, promotional and marketing costs and printing costs, and small items of equipment, but they must be under £500 because this isn't an equipment grant. This is a project grant of which equipment can be a small part. But in total, your equipment can't cost more than 30% of the award requested. Equipment doesn't include software, but it's things like cameras and, you know, hard things that you can use again after that are bits of kit that you can use again after the project's finished. You can also spend money on exhibition space or venue hire, studio rental if you're not already renting a studio. So basically workspace or studios that you have to rent in order just to do this project, put some part of it together. Subsistence allowances if you're traveling, but you cannot pay for a salary or a fee for yourself from the award. And you can pay for travel if it's necessary as part of the project, but only when it's absolutely necessary. And again, it can only be up to 30% maximum of your total request. And at this point, we will be looking for things like budgets that add up properly. So always check that. And we will be looking for a strong case for all the costs absolutely essential for this project. So applications won't be shortlisted where they seem excessive or a huge percentage of the award's going to pay a third party, even though you can pay other people to do stuff. But this is a learning grant, so it's something that's given for you to learn through putting it together. So you have to make a case for why you would just outsource that bit of it. It might not be part of your learning journey to learn those skills.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
About because in the first stage it said that we couldn't change the amount that we asked for, which I don't really
Yes.
want to do anyways. But just say we realize that something like we might find like a cheaper option or something. Should we just stay with the amount that we requested initially?
You need to stay with the amount, so you'll have to make the budget work.
Okay, perfect.
Within that now, yeah. Which is why at the first stage I suggested that you made a really good, strong budget. But things do change, you know, at each stage you'll kind of, you know, get a stronger budget or a stronger feel for it.
Okay.
So, you know, and don't forget you might not get the whole thing anyway. So if, for example, you find that something's a little bit cheaper, then you could put a little bit more money, say, in your contingency, then, you know, that could be part of the solution to finding that. Sorry, I was just looking at a message. Somebody said they were having problems with their internet. I have had problems at High Holborn today with the internet here, so I'm hoping it's not going to affect this meeting. But if for any reason myself or Una drop out, the other one will take over. So you can't pay a fee to yourself or members of your team. So this is people that have been already listed and have been emailed and invited to this meeting, not people that you may say, oh, we're going to use this person to do this aspect or that of it. And no expensive workshops or course fees or residencies. If you're in doubt about that, do just check with us. And like I said earlier, you can't buy equipment that costs over £500. Or if you do need that equipment, you might have to find another place to top it up so that it's not coming from the Mead Award bit of the fund. I'm not going to read that out because I've said most of it already. So basically, anything outside of those elements we wouldn't be paying for. And you need to provide a whole strong case for your whole budget. So really kind of look at the whole thing in detail, and you will have to keep receipts and invoices at the end if you were lucky enough to go through to the next stage. Una. Oh, I think she's disappeared. Sorry. Okay, so it is possible to use the Mead fund in conjunction with other bits of funding or your funding that you put in yourself. You will have to show this. Remember, a budget is the income bit, the expenditure bit, and should show a nil balance after the income's all been spent. So we're not looking at a profit being made at the end of it. If you need to say whether the funds, if you're looking at putting in for other funds, you need to say when they would be secured or if they've been secured already. Don't forget that needs to tie in with your deadline. And we'd also be looking at if you're applying for something else and it doesn't happen, does that mean the whole project can't happen? Because that wouldn't be a strong application. So I hope that answers your question, Casper.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, of course.
So I made a specific budget chart with details for the funding request that how I will use the requested money on the first stage, but can I keep the total amount the same but change the specific allocations for the second stage application?
You can. I wouldn't change it too much because remember it was selected on the grounds that people thought that was a good idea. But yeah, if you feel you've overestimated on one element of it than the other and you want to tighten it up, yes, you can.
Okay,
the second stage panel don't really refer to the first stage application. So it's like, see it as a fresh application. Now it's like you kind of gave us your pitch. For the first stage was kind of the pitch, really. You gave us your pitch. So now we're looking at, okay, let's see the real thing then in detail. Let's see whether it's going to really work. So we need to know that it's feasible, and that includes the budget as well. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. So the project can take place anywhere in the world. It can be in the home, in UK, international. It needs to make sense for the project and for your learning aims through this project. Una, do you want to take over?
So this is the application timeline. So again, good to make a note of these dates. They won't be moving. So these will be the deadlines. And importantly, the pitches to the judges will take place on Friday, the 27th of June.
So just answering a question from the chat, Luciana says, can I include insurance for travel and equipment? Yes, we'd prefer it if you're insured if you're traveling. So yes, that's fine. In terms of the application, let's have a look at how it's going to look. So we've given you a Word document, which is a basic title page. This is the start of your application. So please write, we don't want it in two parts. We want it starting with that and then 10 pages after that. So start with filling in the title page and then continue. And then after you've finished it, wrap it up into a PDF and send it to us. So you get 10 pages. And what we want you to do, and the first page also says something about, it says, I confirm that I've considered any issues about the safety of myself, my team, or any audience or participants arising within or as a result of my project. I have explained how any key risks are to be dealt with within the proposal. This is just a prompt for you to remind you to do this. So think carefully. Are there any risks to you or to anyone within the project? It could be a financial risk. It could be a safety risk. It could be a risk of it not happening because of some, some outside factor that's common in that area. So it can be to do with the theme of the work or the way it's produced, or it can be, to do with your participants or anything. So you need to kind of tell us how that you've thought about those risks and how you're going to mitigate them. So how are you going to make sure, what's your B plan basically if that thing happens? So it's always worth for every project doing a risk assessment or a risk kind of, risk assessment to show where the risks lie and then what you'll do if that thing happens. We don't need to see it this time, but what you could do is weave it into the text and say, there is a risk that this might happen and I would do this if this happens. It shows us that you've got a strong idea of all elements of it and the feasibility of it. And I'm going to just use that word all the way through. We are looking at feasibility. We're not just going, this is a super idea. We're looking at, is it a super idea that you can do? So I hope that's explained that one. And then the other one's an ethics question, which says, I confirm that I've considered ethics and ownership issues arising within or as a result of my project. And I've explained how I'll be dealing with any key issues. So again, who's the subject of your project? Who's participating in it? Who's generating work for it? And explain how you'll be getting their permission, how you'll be acknowledging them, whether it's credits or fees, or whether they're doing it, if they're volunteers, that you're going to kind of make it explicit to them that they're volunteers and that there's permissions in place, that you've looked into how to get permission release forms from them. If you're filming on private property or some sort of restricted space, how will you get permission from the owner? Even if it's in a public domain, make sure that you're not going to get moved on, So basically think about the ethics of it. And there is, if you look at ethics on the UAL webpage, there is all sorts of information about how to consider that. So that's the first page. We haven't got into any of it the rest of it yet. Una, do you want to take on from here? I'm sorry, she's disappeared again. We are having difficulty today with our internet all over the place. So basically treat this application as if it was your only ever submission. Like I said, pretend that you didn't do stage one. You did stage one, you got some feedback and people said, yeah, we like this, we like that, but this needs a bit of work. So now you've got some top tips. You need to kind of really up the game and make sure that it's a strong application. Use all that feedback and make sure that you look at the guidelines again. We've also sent you stage 2 guidelines in a kind of straightforward written form so that you could, you may consider printing that, I think it's 2 or 3 pages off, just so that you can double check it against the writing that you're doing on working on your project. And also do look at the Planning Your Creative Project module on Moodle, because that is really super helpful. It was written specifically for Mead applicants and for people who are putting in any kind of project plan together for a fundraising application. I mean, it's useful for just planning a project, but for fundraising applications, it's got all the nuts and bolts.
So when structuring your application, things to think about are 1, introduction. So clear description of the proposed project, what it is, who will see it, will be involved, and what you hope to achieve. Give context and explain your drivers. 2, target outcomes, including any wider benefits to an industry sector or community. And 3, professional development, how the results, outcomes, benefits will positively affect your studies or help you develop your practice. 4, promotion, how you're going to spread the results of your project so the benefits reach the widest audience. Why you will use these methods, be as specific as possible. For example, don't just say social media. That's something that comes up a lot in the first round, and it is really important to mention why you're using specific platforms. 5, skills and commitment, evidence that you can fulfill your plans to a high standard and you possess a strong commitment to your subject. Refer to any previous prizes or academic achievements. And your additional information, which is 5 pages maximum, is 6 samples of work, 5 images maximum. Please include captions of images. Proposed budget, how you plan to use the fellowship funding, include income to and show a nil balance. Project schedule, how you plan to carry out the project from beginning to end, and your CV, which is 2 pages maximum. If you're in a team/partnership, upload your partner/team CVs at the end of the online form. And team CVs are not included in your 10 pages allocation, so that's separate.
So in your proposed budget, we suggest that you present it in a table. Show all your expected income. So this is your Mead request, as well as and then any other income. So anything from merchandise or ticket sales or any other thing that you might be selling within your project. There may only be the Mead request, but that you should always show it as your income. And then your expenditure shows all your costs. There should be a total under that, and the Mead request, if that's the only thing, and the total of your expenditure should be exactly the same. So that gives a balance at the bottom, which should be 0. If you're not sure how to do that, look on the Planning Your Creative Project module, because there is a sort of downloadable template for that, which you can overwrite with your own expenses. Try not to make it so small that we can't read any of it, but also give enough notes to explain how you've got to those figures. So here there's some examples. So if you go income from tickets 2,500, we might think, well, how's that worked out? And you could say in your notes, full house equals 50 seats, sales at 50% capacity. So imagining, okay, it's the first show of this this performance, so we'd only sell half of them. Over 10 nights is 250 tickets sold at an average price of £10 each. So that income would be 2,500. To be honest, wouldn't expect you to have that sort of income in these projects, but that was just like to show you some neat sort of ballpark figures for those things. And then in terms of, here's an example of how we might cost out some materials. So you might say £750 for materials, clay 300, tools 50, pens, acrylics, So basically you're just kind of showing us that, I mean, these are figures that show a lot of noughts, which it's much more convincing when they're actually big figures. But I just wanted you to see that they add up to the total. So there are a couple of questions about expenses, so I'm going to answer them. Vanessa says, do you have specific examples to explain or support the project wouldn't be possible without the fellowship? I think that basically you kind of need to just say why you would be applying for money. It sounds what's the word? An example would be, I can't do the performance to this level of this quality, or that I can't do the project to this quality without extra funding. I can't do it within my own means without extra funding. And Luciana says, I'm allowed to be slightly over budget to climb for fluctuating prices. Well, I think have a little contingency, and then what happens is that even if you get to the end, you may not get all you asked for anyway. So there may be some rebudgeting that has to happen even if you got the award. So I just think never make your budget so tight that if one bit of the house of cards falls, the whole thing falls. I don't know if that answers your question, Luciana. I would always give yourself a bit of wiggle room, basically. And and yes, put it in a contingency. That's what contingencies are for. That is the wiggle room.
Hi, sorry. I just have a question about budget in terms of like giving the ballpark figures. Should we try to get like from companies exact pricing for this stage, or should we just like do our own research and based on that put it in?
I think for your own peace of mind and also to show that you have done some research, I would try and get, you know, some good figures. Do as much research as is possible to do without actually ordering the things. So, for example, if you were looking at materials, I'd go to Cass Arts or, you know, Great Art or somewhere like that, and you know, online, and just sort of do a shopping list and see how much everything costs.
Okay.
And the same for sort of flights and things. Obviously, flights, they change all the time, but if you kind of have a look at how much they are around now at this time of year or at that time of year last year, and just kind of, you know, try and give a good estimate. And then you can put that in the notes. You can say estimated on last year's prices or estimated on, you know, the price at the time of writing.
Perfect.
Okay, so Casper says how many projects are going? So there are 8 finalists, and it will be up to the judges who gets funded from those 8. It has been as many as 7. And for any films or anything, you need to look at paying people commensurate with their level of experience. So use the industry rates if you can get hold of those. There is a link. If you go on the graduate hub, there is a link to the creative project, planning your creative project module. I will send it with this the link to this recording.
Okay, thank you.
For expenditure on exhibitions, so I would say have a look into some spaces, and you need to also say where you're looking at. And for exhibitions, I'd say you need to have some ideas of where you would put it. You don't just say, oh, I'm going to exhibit, because exhibition venues vary in the timelines. Some have already planned for the next 2 years. So you need to prove that you've kind of done some feasibility and looked into particular places. The ones that do best are the ones where they already have some idea of where they're going to exhibit, and they've made some contact with that place, and they've already got prices, and they know when they could fit that exhibition in, and so forth. Don't just assume that bit of it will happen. That's as important as the rest of the project plan. Sigrid says, on the budget, I understand it has to be specific. What is advice for Yeah, I think use any estimates you can, Sigrid. If you don't know exactly what the outcomes are going to be, then you know you have to kind of have to think as much as is possible into the future for that. I think that's all I can say. I don't really. You have to put something together. It's not just here's a bung of money and go ahead and do it. You do have to put a budget together, so you are going to have to do some estimates. And Viava says, I'm working movie. It's okay to. So your question is just people that are helping on the project. Is it okay to allocate funds for them? Yes. I would decide on, I mean, we don't want to see people being paid under kind of minimum wage. So you know, have a look at industry rates for the people based on their level of experience and the responsibility, and the same way you would in any project. It's, you know, and also local rates if you're working outside of the UK. So it's about making a rate that's not exploiting anyone, and it's giving people, and it's going to be attractive enough to get people involved. So that's really what you need to show us. But show us how you've got those rates and how you've chosen them. Okay, where are we now? I'm just looking at. So project schedule is the next big bit of kind of like working out. And in order to do this, you kind of really need to know how your project's going to work along the timeline. So it can't really start before September this year, because the awards don't get decided till the end of June, and then it usually takes July, August to kind of do all the paperwork. Sometimes there's budgets that need to be rewritten, that sort of thing. So basically, by the time we've kind of worked through all that and we've got it all through finance, people are paid in August, late August. So really it can't start before September. That's why we say September. But if you have summer activities that are essential at the end of your project, we can extend it to August 26. So it should finish in July 2026, but if you're going to do festivals or some kind of thing that only can happen in August, then we can extend it. Yes, you do. Sorry, I'm just answering Gigi. Yes, you do need to reach out to the galleries and exhibition spaces and get an estimated cost for renting the exhibition space. Yes, I would say do that. There isn't any particular time. Some people are ready sooner and some people are ready later. The whole timeline is September this year to July next year. So your project timeline is entirely up to you. And, you know, some people have a long planning and research period. Some people have a shorter period. So, you know, and the exhibition period might be sooner or later. So it'll vary from project to project. I hope that answers that question. So looking on from you having done your application, I would keep to the structure, by the way, as it's written down, and you might even find it useful to put in those headings. Whenever we're doing fundraising applications, if there is if they tell you to cover this, the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I would do them in that order, because that means that they're kind of going to they're going to be able to read it easily. You want your shortlisters to be able to read it, to make sense of it, and to see the rationale and that you've thought of each bit. And so I would keep to the structure and the order of the structure. And for sure, use the subheaders if you want, if you feel that you want to do that, and it kind of signposts people. So the academic reference is just for the lead applicant. You don't need to produce one for every single person. But what we ask is that you've got an academic reference from your tutor, course leader, or course director or dean. And it's an essential part of the application. And without the reference, we can't, it's an incomplete application that we considered. So you upload your reference with your proposal. The thing that we can, and you also upload your team's CVs in a different bit of the form, well, the same bit of the Gravity form. The template's provided in your email, and the reference is for you as a creative, and they should have read your application at stage 1, so they can say, oh yes, this person's, a good artist, and I think this is a good project, and they actually have the skills and experience to carry it out. The questions are in the template that we gave you. So you can, somebody says about the CV removing your personal contacts. It's things like phone numbers and addresses. Sometimes people have like every single bit of their life on it. So I would say take off your phone number and your addresses. I think professional links like websites and LinkedIn would be okay to include, but I don't assume that anyone's going to look at them, because there'll be a lot to read. And I would always say with any application, wherever possible, don't make the shortlisters do homework. Make sure that you have included everything you want them to know. So if there's something like amazing in your LinkedIn profile, put it in the text. It's basically, assume that they're going to be reading a lot of stuff as well as doing their day jobs, and then you want to make it as easy and as clear and as simple as possible to convince them that this is a great project, you've got all the skills to do it, and your team are all behind you, and they're bringing stuff to the table as well. And they just have to tick the right boxes and give you a high score, and you go forward. So don't make people chase all over the internet trying to find out other information about you. So documents you need to submit on the online portal, your title page, which then runs on to a 10-page proposal. Please put it all in one PDF document. Any team or partner's CVs, attach them to the portal as well, and your academic reference. If your tutor's not able to get it by the deadline and needs a couple more days, then it can be sent directly to us by email. We'd prefer it if you can just manage to put it all on the portal, but occasionally tutors are away or something, so we're allowing people to email. I've kind of
hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Hi, hello, Daniel. Have you got a question? It's very loud where you are.
Oh, sorry about that. It's a quick
Right.
one.
No,
I can check. Yeah. For the reference, could it be an industry mentor, like from, let's say, Film London or UL mentorship, and then like I
no, it has. The
grades,
reference has to be from your tutor course. It has to be from within UAL.
Oh, okay.
Somebody that knows you as a student.
And you said you also have to attach your grades as well, or not necessary from the course?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last bit.
Do you have to attach your grades?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, this isn't connected with your grades. This is
Okay.
kind of separate to your academic achievements, as it were. This is, yeah, what we want to know is that your project, that your tutor or somebody who knows you well as a student thinks that you've got the skills and that this will really help your learning journey to do this project, and that it's a good idea. So when you're applying to them, I would attach your stage 1 application so that they can see what it is they're giving you a reference for. And the CV and the reference don't count for the 10 pages. The 10 pages is just about the project.
On that note, is that okay?
Oh, sorry, is this why? So it has to be a tutor that's associated with your class, with your course.
Should it be just one or more than one?
No, one reference, and it's an academic reference from a tutor or a course leader or somebody who actually knows you because they've worked with you on your academic studies and on your course.
Jane, regarding the, oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. We can take it in turns.
Okay, me? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. I was discussing with my lead tutor this afternoon about the reference letter, and he said that they prefer and they usually send the reference letter directly to the email provided. Is that all
Yeah, they
right?
can do that. They can send it to us. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so they would just need the number of the application and everything.
Yeah, so they just need to put your details in the reference. So I have known, and if you look at the template, it'll show that you're named, and they'll say what course you're on.
Perfect.
So we'll be able to link it up with the application.
Fantastic, thank you.
My question is just regard the CV. I saw in the slides that there is a place for extra participants to upload. In my case, it's just me. So my CV should go in that link, or should it go
Yes,
as part of the PDF?
We're coming to that in a bit. So let's
Okay.
just go forward, and maybe that will get answered in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
If you're applying as a joint pair, I think it's sensible to both provide references. If you're a whole team, then just the lead applicant's fine. I don't. So somebody said, are there additional details on the length and format of the reference letter? So there's a template that was attached to your email that we sent you. So I would suggest that you just send that to the tutor and they'll work it out from that, because that's like a kind of example. So if you send them an email or a letter saying, you know, a message or whatever, saying, I'm applying for this, here's my application, here's the template for the reference, and here's the email to send the reference to. You can send them the Mead email, or you can say, you know, please send it to my email. The best option would be they send it to both, and then we've both got a copy. And then if you upload it as well, it doesn't matter if we've got it twice. Okay, let's move on. We will have time for questions at the end as well. I'm glad you're all asking questions now because it's useful to do it as we go along, but there will be time at the end too. I've kind of lost track of where we were. I think I've used some of Una's bit of presentation. Sorry, Una. I got carried away. Anyway, so there's a link in the email that I sent you which shows you the stage 2 form. So that's a private link that's only gone to the people that are shortlisted to stage 2. So please don't send it to anyone else, because yeah, we'll get very confused if we see other people apply. So that's the link. It's also in the email. This is kind of what it looks like. So here you can see that the online portal, the first bit's the introduction, then it's got number 2. You can see underneath the title it says number 2, your details. So that's your usual details. And then this is the page about your proposal page, the 3rd page. So where it says, so you select the subject area. That has to be the same subject area that you've already told us you're applying under. And then it says upload your proposal form in a Word or PDF format. It's better in PDF format. If you're a Mac user, please don't send us a Pages document. We can't open them. We have to ask you to send it again. So please just wrap it into a PDF format, because that's accessible. So you upload your proposal there. Then at the second box, you upload your team or your partner's CVs, and then your own CV as part of the 10 pages, and then you upload your tutor reference. So there's 3 places to upload stuff. Unfortunately, the portal doesn't save, so make sure you've got everything ready first. The portal's just the place you bung everything, the post box as it were. So make sure you've got your PDF ready, your CVs ready, your tutor reference ready, and then fill in the thing on the portal, and then send it off to us. You'll get a pop-up message that looks like this. If you don't see this, it hasn't gone through. Do it again. So unless you get this, and you'll also get it by email. So check your spam folder, but if you don't have any notification that it's gone through, assume it hasn't and resubmit it. There is a file limit on it. Hang on, I'm going back to see. It says, I don't think there is a file limit on the PDF one. Somebody's asked what the file limit is. It's only 10 pages, so it shouldn't get that big. And you can only have 5 images, so it should, and a couple of images that might be your timeline and your budget that you've dropped in. So we've never had a problem with people having it being too big. CVs, keep them short and to the point, and make sure that it shows that you've got the relevant skills for this particular job. Sorry, the lights have gone off. I'm just going to bung them back on. It's the hazard of working at High Holborn. Right. Okay, let's move forward. Una, I think this is you.
So we have some slides on producing a strong application. So some advice is to use the Planning Your Creative Project module. And I think we have some statistics on how many people made it to the final round who used this module. I don't have them to hand, but it's really, really useful, and you can also use it in the future. You can download all the resources and use them for other projects and other funds and grants that you might apply for. So we'd recommend people looking at that. You can specifically refer to these sections in the module, such as identifying your audience and beneficiaries, outputs, outcomes, impacts, project timeline, budgeting, stakeholders, supporters and resources, skills you bring to the project, marketing and publicity, and evaluation. I think the budgeting bit is especially useful because sometimes that might be part of the kind of how you specifically break down and lay out a funding application that you might not have seen before. And there are kind of specific ways of doing it. So that is super useful. Some top tips for writing great applications. Take your time. Building a great application takes several weeks. Leave yourself time for proper research, editing and revising after feedback, and for other people like your tutor or team members to provide support materials like references and CVs. As we've kind of already discussed, make all CVs relevant to the project. Plan a structure for your application. Write notes on what information you need to gather for each part of the structure. Treat this application like a management project in itself. Take time away from your application and come back to it, and you'll see it with new eyes. And what are the shortlisting panel looking for? So first impressions, make them want to read more about it. Don't use descriptive language that you can't back up. Clarity is the key to success. Don't leave obvious questions unanswered or confuse the reader. Show that you have the skills and experience to complete this project successfully, and tell us how you will learn and how this project will contribute to your journey as an artist/maker.
Sorry.
Yeah.
About the CV and tailoring it to the fellowship specifically, does that kind of mean I should focus on creative projects rather than, like, say, my work experience?
I guess it's kind of, people that have known you in the capacity that would be useful for what you'll be doing during the project, because I guess that's what they would be commenting on. So, if you want to do, if you're producing artworks, it might not be as kind of relevant if you had a reference from a part-time job where you were doing admin, so it's good to tailor things so that people can comment on the skills and abilities you have that you're going to be deploying during your project.
Okay, perfect. So, like, the people that could speak on what I've done, like that I've done creative projects with, would they be like references for that then? As in, would the CV include like contact information and stuff?
No, you don't need to do that. You just need to include work or experience that's relevant to the actual skills that you're talking about. So if you were talking about having budgeting skills and you'd worked as a junior accountant at some point, it would be worth mentioning that.
Okay,
you see what I'm saying? So make it relevant to the skills and the experience that you're actually talking about having, that you're going to bring to make this project happen. Sorry, Una.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got confused between whether we were discussing the CV or the reference.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, kind of a specific thing to remember with the shortlisting panel is that they're not necessarily people from your discipline. So thinking about like the language that you use, it's best to not assume that people are like incredibly knowledgeable about exactly the area that you're in. It's an important thing to remember.
So coming back to the budget, because we find some things quite common to applications throughout the time we've been doing, the years we've been doing this, make sure that your budget adds up. If you're not super duper at mental arithmetic, which most of us aren't, use a spreadsheet to make sure it adds up, even if you then present it in a table. Because when you cut and paste things and when we adjust things, sometimes we lose money along the way. So make sure that your income make sure that you've shown your income and deducted that from the project expenditure, and you're left with a zero balance. We mentioned that earlier. Mead awards aren't used to generate seed income to run a business. If you were putting a business case towards us, then we might want to see that you were making a profit even in the first year, but it's not a business. This is a project. We're giving you money to run the project and that alone, and so we want to see that you've spent it all. And tell us about any funds you've already secured, and if there's applications that are already in and pending, when those results will be known, and what happens if you don't get the money, because then we might want to know. It might be that you only do a particular bit of the project if that extra funding comes in, and if it doesn't, then you drop that bit off and just do the bulk of the fund of the project. But we just kind of need to know that. Somebody asked a question about GIFs. We need still images because this is going to be in a PDF. So still images, please. And also people might print it out. So it's not going to work if it's a hard copy, especially at the judging stage. They often have it in front of them when they're talking to the applicants. And then So the CV is providing examples of where you did similar things. So that may not be similar things as in exactly the same. It might be something that shows that you've got the same sort of skill base. So look at the skills that you're telling us you've got, and then make
But when So I think Jane may have lost connection, so I will just do a few more of these slides on her behalf. So I'll just wait for Jane to come back to answer a few more questions, and I'll just go for the next few of these, but we'll also have more time at the end for questions. So if your budget, check your budget adds up, show your income and deduct income from the total project expenditure. You should be left with zero balance. Mead awards cannot be used to generate seed income. Tell us about funds you have already secured, and if applications are pending, say what date the results will be known. Do not exceed the page count, forget to correct your spelling mistakes, provide an email you rarely check or a phone number you don't often use, email a question to us just before the deadline, add in items which would be unreasonable to support or an unrealistic budget, include unnecessary travel, can any part of the project be done remotely? What language should I use? Use plain English, avoid art speak, don't be vague, make your answers explicit and answer the questions that are being asked. Make it easy for others to trust in you and invest in your proposal. Check out the Hemingway app to help you write with clarity. Are you back with us, Jane?
I'm so sorry, I left the room unexpectedly. Sorry, I got booted out. I don't know what happened. The Wi-Fi disconnected, but yes, I'm back here. Where have we got to? Have we got to the Hemingway app?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, thank you. Yeah, the Hemingway app is quite useful. You can put your, it's not like a, you know, the chat GBT or whatever. It's not that kind of AI. It's basically, you just put your your paragraph into one bit of it and it tells you how you can make it clearer. So it's not writing it for you. It's just telling you how you can maybe put some punctuation in or maybe break down your sentences to make them clearer to read. And I think you might find it really helpful to use. Make sure that you get rid of spelling mistakes as much as possible. If English isn't your first language, and a lot of it, it wouldn't be your first language, I think, then please make sure that you're getting somebody else to kind of proofread it so that you can help, they can help support your written language skills like that. And also, well, anyone should get a proofreader. So I would always give my applications to somebody to proofread and somebody to also say whether it actually makes sense or whether I've somehow in the cut and paste missed out some vital bit of the jigsaw. Somebody said, what we're trying to demonstrate with examples of our work. So with examples of your work, it's really to support your application. So it's to kind of show what you might be doing with this project. If you don't have examples of that to support it, you don't have to include images. Because there may not be images you can't, it may be impossible to do that. This may be a conceptual text-based application, and that is also fine. But have a good think about what you might use. Maybe it's someone else's work, or maybe it's some of your past work, or maybe it's, I think somebody just put in last year, for a theatre show, put like an example of what the flyer for that show might look like. So something that sort of brings it alive a bit. It is quite useful to have an image. It sort of brings the application alive, but it's not always possible. So we're going on to frequently asked questions. Una, do you want to take a few of these?
So can I change category or ask for a different amount? No. Please select the same category used for stage 1, and the amount of money you requested must be the same as you requested at stage 1. I want to include an image which shows the sort of thing I'm talking about. So it is fine to show an image which is your inspiration or which clarifies your project. Under your image, state whether this is your own image or someone else's and add a credit. Explain why you're including this image, and here's an example.
So there is a question in the chat, is it okay to include screenshots from works we had published in some magazines? Yeah, that's fine, that's fine. With the top of the article and the title, yeah, that's explanatory because that's like the caption, isn't it then? But it's also worth including a credit underneath saying, you know, this is some work, or this is, you know, this is how I imagined the flyer might look, or, and I've designed this, or I've had this designed for me by such and such a person. So just, and always tell the reader why they're looking at this image. You know, why are they looking at what it is and why they're looking at and who made it, basically.
Another question is, I want to outsource an element of my project. What should I explain? So make a strong case for why you can't do this aspect of your project yourself. Say how this affects the ownership of creative rights within your project. And then we have a link to the resource on how to manage your intellectual property. So it's an important thing to make a note of with any collaborations that you're going to be doing within your project. And it's a good idea to show that you have a working knowledge of the importance of kind of establishing an agreement with any collaborators. And that's all part of you having a clear idea of what part of the project you're going to be doing and what part of the project other people are going to be doing. Because by this stage of the kind of longer application, there shouldn't really be any kind of like ambiguity around that. Like people should have, well, you should at least have a clear idea of the bits of the project that you're going to be completing.
About that, if we have contractors that help us with like the parts of the project that are in the area we're focusing on, would it make sense to include like kind of like written consent about IP?
You won't have room for that within 10 pages.
Okay.
Just say that you have it.
Okay.
just say that you've agreed a form of agreement between you.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. So sometimes people say, oh, I've missed the deadline, can I have an extension? In the interest of fairness, basically, we won't accept late or revised applications. So please make sure that this comes in. It's the day after Bank Holiday Monday if you're in the UK in May. So you've got the whole bank holiday to get it in. Don't put it all in at the last minute in case the portal's kind of a bit sluggish. You know, give yourself time and try and avoid the stress, basically. If you can't obtain your tutor reference in time to put it on the Gravity form, you know, the online portal, please send us an email to let us know that. Most people can. I mean, you've got, like, it's March now and we don't need it to the beginning of May. So if you give your tutor enough notice, they should be able to give it. It's not a massive reference. It's quite short. They should be able to get that together. But if there is any doubt about it, let us know. Mia, you've said about samples of work. Again, don't, in terms of links and videos, I would say just don't make people do lots of homework. And also, the other thing is that particularly at the final stage, I'm afraid they are sometimes looking at hard copies. So I would say if you're going to include, if you want to include something, then include a still from a film or a video that gives an idea of the, you know, you at this stage you're just giving an idea about the look and feel of something. So it's more like a storyboard sort of image than a actual film or a short clip or anything. I hope that answers. In terms of intellectual property, you will own the intellectual property of your project and you know, all its materials if you go through to the last phase, you know, the last bit and you get the award. But we will, in the agreement that we get to awardees to sign, we do ask for the right to reproduce materials that you've provided to us free of charge. So all the way through this, you've seen that we've got images from past awardees projects. It's not the applications, it's just the awardees. And obviously we don't want to keep running back to people that got an award in 2013 going, can we use it again? So we ask for a kind of in perpetuity license to use those images of the award materials. But the copyright remains with you as the person who made the artwork. And that's exactly what it says in the award agreement if you get to that successful stage. So that's the end of the kind of run through of the guidelines. You should also have, I'm just going to take this down. You should also have the other written thing, which is this bit. Oh, it's very small. But anyway, it's this, which is the application guidelines, which again sort of talks you through in you know, more digestible form about the structure of the application. And shows you exactly what the 10 pages include, which includes your CV at the end, but only yours, not your team's. So that's your 10 pages. And looking at that, I would, if it was me writing this application, I would, oh, maybe I can make it bigger. Sorry, that was a bit silly, wasn't it? I didn't notice you could do that. So in this, you've got your introduction, your target outcomes, your professional development, your promotion, your skills and commitment, your samples of work, proposed budget, proposed schedule, and then your CV, which is 2 pages maximum. If you want to write more about your project, then make it 1 page and you've got the rest of your 9 pages to write about your project. I mean, I would say at the beginning, maybe look at apportioning how many pages you want to give each bit of the application, and then try and stick to it. And then you won't have a massive editing job when you've written 20 pages and then you're trying to get it down to 10. So most people manage to write a really good application within that structure. So I would just, yeah, structure it out and sort of have a go. But also, for me, when I'm writing fundraising applications, which I have not done for some time, but used to do all the time, I would always do a kind of rough version first, which would have all the bullet points in every bit of the structure of what I'm going to include, so that I don't forget everything. And then you can start drilling down. And then right at the end, when you've got all your kind of structure and all the bullet points and everything you're going to include, then you can start making it into sensible English statements, statements in English, written as sentences instead of bullet points. So I hope that makes sense to everyone. And let's remove that. Are there any other questions? We've had a lot of questions, which is great. Are there any other unanswered questions?
I do have a question about the budget. So a few times you mentioned the income part, and I just didn't consider that as a possibility. And since my project is sort of an event, it could be like that I have tickets, but I just haven't taken that into account, as I thought that we shouldn't make any money from it. So I thought I wouldn't just put the price on tickets. But I'm just wondering now, would this be like a minus in consideration of a project, and should I put like a price on the event now?
Well, sadly, we do live in quite a society where things are more valued if they have a value, the financial value. So as somebody that used to run theatres and art centres, we always found that free events were not attended as well as events where there were tickets that you had to pay for. So it's up to you, Mia. It depends who your target audience is. If your target audience is nursery children, then maybe not charge them. If your target audience is people with the means to pay, maybe charge them. So you can decide on that. But yes, if you aren't offering, and just make it clear why, make it clear what you're doing.
I think there is a difference in cultural context of where I'm doing it. So would it be good in my application to explain why I'm not charging tickets?
Yeah, you just need to put a few words and say this isn't appropriate to charge.
Okay.
This will be a free event. Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect. Thank you.
Daniel says a Word PDF or a PowerPoint PDF. I think they end up as the same, don't they? Do you know what? I think you've reached the limit. My knowledge on PDF. I've made both, but they all seem to end up looking the sort of same.
Yes, when we save it gets to the same.
Yeah. Anything that ends up as a PDF is fine. Yeah, thank you. I don't know who answered that, but thank you for it. Malika, do you have a question, Malika? Makila, sorry. You've got your hand up. I don't know if that.
I think
that is you. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, no, the hand is up since when we spoke before, and I'm just sorry to ask again, but I got distracted taking notes of other things, and I didn't realize the CV can be in the attachment, the 10 pages in the general PDF, or should be in the link.
So the applicant CV is in the application. If you have team members, those CVs are in extras that you just add in, because we don't know how many people have team members, so we can't include it in the 10 pages.
Okay. But
do you see what I mean? That's the rationale for it. So there's extra people, then extra attachments, but for everybody, one CV of the lead applicant. So Casper asked if both of them should put in a CV. I would say oh yes, that was references. But yeah, so any extra bits and pieces, just add it in to the extras on the portal and it'll come through to us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So I am using robotic arms in the project for it to perform, but do they count as small equipment?
Oh, robotic arms. I wouldn't think so. I would think they count as props.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a
So,
performance, isn't it? So
mm-hmm.
I would count that as staging and props. Equipment is more something that you can use again because it has a function of its own. I
Mm-hmm.
know that might, but no, I would say that's, for me, that would be productions and props area, set props production rather than equipment. Equipment is
Okay.
things like drones, cameras, tripods,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know, easels. It's like hard kind of stuff that you might use for another project afterwards that's not connected in any way.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So, some wise said, sorry to have a repeat question. My current mentor is a UAL staff and my course assisting lecturer. Does that count? I think so. If it comes in the not your mentor, it has to be somebody that's actually taught you on your course. It's an academic reference, not a character reference. And mentors, that's probably not something they'd do anyway, because that's a bit of a sort of conflict of interest, because a mentor is just a support. So I would say somebody that's actually worked with you on your course. So I hope that helps. Somebody that's helped you within your academic studies. Luciana says, once travelling and food accommodation can be in the budget. Yes, yes.
Just in regards to the reference thing, I think if someone has an academic position, then they can still be a reference because they can, they have the skills and experience to pass judgment.
As long as they've known you on your course while you were learning because that's what the judges will be looking for. They'll be looking at people that have known you academically. So they know that they've had you working with them in a learning environment. So that's what they're looking for. Traveling, food and accommodation was always allowed. So it just has to show that it's necessary. So it has to show that it's necessary to travel, and obviously it's necessary to stay overnight if you're going far away from your home, and it's necessary to be able to feed yourself. So that, in that sense, it has to show that it's necessary. Makila, I feel that your hand is up because it was up before, but you can lower it if it isn't necessary, or ask a question. So I feel that we're kind of coming to the end. It was a bit of a rush, but you can ask us other questions by email. Obviously, do not ask them 2 minutes before the deadline. And because it's Easter coming up, we are taking bits of leave. So give time for us to answer things. So if you've got any big questions, ask them sooner rather than later, early April rather than late April. Does anyone have any other questions before we finish the session? I do apologise for having been in and out. That was technical issues.
I just have a question about, so maybe it's specifically to my project, but since I'm like, my project would be an event, so I'm not sure if it's necessary to have also an exhibition as part of the like budgeting and plan for the project. Because
Some
of the
people,
event is kind
some
of,
people do, and well, some people do, and some people don't. So basically, some people get as far as having the project completed, which they then will look at getting further funding to exhibit. Some people, and whether that's a film or a sort of art exhibition or whatever, they're kind of going, I want the thing so I can get it all together, and then I'll look at. And some people basically kind of do go on what you had thought you were going to do at stage one. Stay true to the spirit of that, because that's what you wanted to do, whatever you put together. So, but nobody's going to, penalise you if you change your mind, to be honest, because we don't have time to look at the stage one as well as the stage two. The most important thing is stay true to what you thought you were applying for, the project that you really wanted to do that gave you the passion to put forward an application in stage one, and really try and show that you've got the kind of not just the passion but the skills and the people around you, whether they're paid or not paid, or whether they're just volunteers, or whether they're stakeholders that are kind of just going to support your project. Show us that you've got all this in place, plus some skills, plus there's going to be a load of new things that you learn from it, and there's going to be a kind of willing and eager audience for this project. And that, basically you've sort of looked at the safety and the ethics and the feasibility of the whole thing coming together. We don't want to give the award to people that are going to struggle to actually pull it off. We want the challenges to be within your personal learning journey and within you working out how to do it and doing it and learning new things along the way, not because there wasn't enough money or you hadn't got the right people or you didn't know how to do a massive bit of it that meant it was going to be a complete nightmare. The idea is we give you the winners enough money to do something they're going to enjoy, they're going to really get to grips with, and they're going to be able to learn loads of new things and have the opportunity to stretch themselves and their practice. So I hope that's kind of explained the whole spirit of it. And I hope that you have, some insight and fun putting the application together and it's not too much of a nightmare. Just make sure that it's all realistic. That's what I always say. Don't make any grand claims that you can't back up, because we don't need grand claims. We just need to know what you want to do and how you want to do it. Is that everything that everyone wanted to ask? I don't want to leave the session with anyone feeling like they had something burning and they didn't manage to ask it. Oh, yes, somebody asked how many people are in stage 2. I think there's 32 proposals, but there's more people because there's quite a few teams this year. I think it was about 43 people, but actually that's 32 applications. And of those, 8 will go forward to the finals. So the odds are quite good as long as you put the work in now. And it's exciting, and well done. You've got this far because we liked your idea. So, well done you. And whether you go through or not, use this as an opportunity to really kind of get to grips with putting together an application, because then you've got it. You know, when I did fundraising all the time, I probably wouldn't get the first thing, but then I had the whole project plan so that I could apply for the same thing, put a few more bits and pieces together, rework it a bit, or just apply for a different, you know, grant or a different award, and suddenly it would hit. So, you know, it's not the end of the world if you don't get it. You've now got yourself a really solid kind of project plan. So think of it like that, and hopefully you will get through. But yeah, that's all I can say, really. Did you want to say anything to wrap up, Una?
No, I think you've covered everything.
Okay, well, we will send you the link. If you could bear to watch this again, you're very welcome. We'll send you the link probably tomorrow. And we'll also send you the links to getting into the module. If you're a graduate and you didn't register your for us to be able to, there was something you had to do to register that you still wanted to be in touch. So you might have to get in touch with graduate support and ask them how to do that in order to get through on the graduate hub. But I think they issued another year's kind of access or something. But anyway, we can sort that out for you, but let us know sooner rather than later. So I'll send you the links to the module and the links to the link to this recording. And don't forget to download as a package all the templates from the module, because you can use them for every project. Then if you keep a blank set and just resave them, you can use them every time you're planning something. So hopefully they'll be useful into the future. And we wish you all the best with all your applications, and we look forward to reading them.